When thinking about globalization, the thought is large and all-encompassing. The process of the known world becoming a large interconnected society is comprised of smaller achievements. The Gutenberg printing press is one of the tools that made that achievement possible. The Gutenberg press changed the way books were created. Up until the creation of the Gutenberg press, all books were written by hand, or each page or paragraph was carved into a block of wood. The wood blocks were carved with a mirror image of a design or text on the wood block, and that was used as a template for the printing press. Each block cannot be edited, just replaced. The wood blocks would wear away after a small number of uses. The process of making a printing block was costly and time-consuming. The amount of time it took to create a book made books very expensive to make, thereby limiting the accessibility to a written book. Creating an environment where only the wealthy could create and afford to own a book. The Gutenberg printing press stood out from the global industry at the time. Johannes Gutenberg's idea and skill set allowed him to come up with another way to create books. Gutenberg is a goldsmith by trade and also polished gems. In the middle of the 15th century, Johannes Gutenberg invented the typography. What he did was to construct the apparatus for making movable metal letters or type, and for using these to produce many copies, all alike, of a book. What that means is that his skills and idea lead him to create the mechanical process that allowed individual letters to be interchanged, so that there was no need for time-consuming carved wood blocks. The printer can just change the letters around and move on to the next page of printing. The first book took him 2 years to complete. In that time, he modified the machine to make every other print after that faster. The printing press, invented around 1440 in the Holy Roman Empire, went pretty much unchanged until Gutenberg created a new way to print. The use of the press changed the production time of a book being made from start to finish. With a dramatic decrease in the time to produce a book meant that the volume of books can go up. Kepler described this by dramatically decreasing the cost of texts and subsequently increasing the number of texts available. It gave a large number of people access to books in an individual setting for the first time, without an intermediary from the church and/or state reading to them. The combination of decreased price and increased production created a space to establish their own opinions in written words. This ability gave the writer to express his interpretation on others' works and compare different books. The way that people other than the church could put out their ideas was a threat to the main publisher of the time, the church. Kepler wrote that people in power at the time were worried that Gutenberg's press would destroy the world. And they were absolutely right, it did. It destroyed their world. Or anyway, it significantly weakened their authority, which to anyone in authority is a destruction of the world. The freedom to read any material you desire and the ability to write your opinion and share it with others at a cheaper price than the competitors. Ed Gyllenhaal, the curator at Glencairn, states that Gutenberg's invention allowed books to be copied quickly and cheaply for the first time in history, which spared a revolution in the publishing. This press impacted the church directly by giving people other books to read besides the Bible. This issue also impacted the public, giving them an outlet to speak and the ability to read other ideas. The Gutenberg press allows flyers, calendars, letters and general works of Latin literature to be printed and sold to people other than the wealthy. Gutenberg did not invent the printing press himself. He combined the use of paper, oil-based ink and the wine press in his workshop to mass-produce literature. As a metalsmith, he used metals that were soft enough to cast but hard enough to hold up for thousands of impressions. Using his past skills as a goldsmith and metal worker helped him create his own ratio of metal that was robust enough to be used multiple times. Gutenberg created his own mixture of 80% lead, 5% tin and 15% antimony. Gutenberg's system for casting type is made up for a few parts. First is a punch, which is metal that touches the page. Second is the matrix, and that is the device that holds the letter in place. Third is the mold, which is the letter or symbol that you want to use. Fourth is the type mold, and that opens so that the newly cast letter can be removed. Gutenberg press casted 290 different type shapes, which include upper and lower case letters, a punctuation mark, and symbols. Early printing presses used water-based ink, but for Gutenberg's ideas to work he needed a different solution, a thick and tacky ink that would adhere to metal type and not smear or cause runoff on the paper. The ink used for the press was a glossy black ink that contained quantities of copper, lead and sulfur, and has similar compounds used by oil painters of his period. The uniform blackness of Gutenberg's ink impression is still considered a standard quality. The Catholic Church realized the potential of the printing press as a challenge to Church's influence. The Church saw this invention as a way to produce more Bibles en masse. The Church would save the cost of producing a new Bible. Gutenberg saw printing as a way to make money, so he would print what a client wanted. The Church didn't appreciate this. The Catholic Church introduced a censorship into the print shop in 1487. When Pope Innocent VIII required that the church authorities approve all books before they are published. The church had censored books in the past, though it became much more difficult to do so after the invention of the Gutenberg printing press. The church had no problem controlling a dozen or so manuscripts of forbidden text. With the Gutenberg printing press, the church couldn't handle the few thousand copies that were being made of forbidden text every year. The mass volume of unapproved books was another matter that the church couldn't handle. The first book produced by movable type was Gutenberg's 42-line Bible. The 42-line Bible is named for the number of lines that were in each column from its double-column pages. Known as the Gutenberg Bible or the Mainz Bible, named for where it was produced. The Bible has large margins. The first book was considered a book of quality. Published in 2 volumes, totaling over 1,200 pages. No one knows exactly how many copies of the Bible were printed, but the best guess is that around 180–145 on paper and a few more on high-quality parchment known as vellum. The red and blue headers in the photo were added by hand to the Bible. Gutenberg's name doesn't appear on any of his work, but he is accredited with the 42-line Bible. 48 of these books have been preserved. In life, having never been recognized for his invention, Gutenberg died poor, estranged, and with relatively no recognition for working on the press. Gutenberg ended up losing his shop to Johann Fust, who had been the money lender who helped Gutenberg get his printing press started. The courts favored Fust under the pretext that Gutenberg was misusing funds that were loaned to him and was unable to pay back the money. The result was Gutenberg going into debt and found himself operation out of a different shop trying to make money. Later he was exiled from the city of Mainz after he found himself on the losing side of a conflict between 2 competing archbishops. In 1468, Gutenberg died. He was most likely still in debt, and had been given no real credit by Fust for what he had done on the printing press. The printing press caused knowledge to flourish. There was a huge boom in literacy. The books were mainly travel literature. Printing was around for a long time, believed to have started in China first, but Gutenberg's press represents the idea of turning printing into a manufacturing process. The difference is that he could make thousands of copies quickly and efficiently. This started the notion that you can get machines to do what people used to do. This starts the end of the artisan era and the beginning of the manufacturing era. Gutenberg's name will live on as one of the great inventors in human history.